Welcome to Asenso Tayo Leaders, where we bring you real stories from leaders like you so you can lead with more clarity, direction, and confidence.
Welcome to another episode of the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast. I'm Michael Back, and as always, I am joined by my trusty, wonderful co-host, Maria Asoro. How are you today, Maria?
I'm great, Becky. I'm winning.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes.
What are you winning?
Yeah, because this week, though there's a lot going on, but definitely, I think I'm feeling still organized. So I think I'm in the right track.
It's so good to have those fleeting moments, and sometimes they don't last very long. So enjoy it while you can, right?
Yeah. It's a great start to February, I think. And yeah, can't wait for what's coming.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of people in January say, oh, that month flies. It's, Christmas. And then before you know it, it's February. I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm more like, I feel like I did a year's worth of stuff in January. So by the time February's come, I was feeling more like, it's only February? We've done all of that.
Oh, 100%. I feel that too.
Done.
Means you achieved a lot, Becky. That's the positive thing about that.
Exactly. That's right. You're exactly right. It's all good stuff. Now, I mean, we're here. If you've read the title of this episode before you're listening to our intro, we're here to introduce an episode with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Adrian Ding. Adrian is the CEO and founder and the head coach of Maximum Impact. He is someone who I had heard so much about before I met him. It was almost this, when I say the man, the myth, the legend, they're not hollow words. Like there was this almost mythology around Adrian. So I suppose from your point of view, being on the ground in the Philippines, for people who haven't heard of Adrian, why don't you paint a picture of who is this guy? What does he do? And what's his reputation in the business world?
I've heard of his name often from people in like big companies, managers, supervisors, and they would always give this glowing feedback, say, oh my gosh, I feel renewed, revitalized in my work because I came out of a workshop with Adrian Ding. Initially, I was like, curious, who's that guy? And I was checking LinkedIn and I was like, oh my gosh, he does a lot of work with big companies and really successful companies and talking to leaders, doing training sessions, and I believe some team building activities too. So he's out there. His name always comes up every now and then. So he's like the celebrity, especially here in Cebu, I guess, since he's a local as well. So I think it's very easy for a lot of Cebuanos to reach out and, have a chat with him and ask help from whatever company they're a part of. And yeah, there's always just that really great feedback, Becky, that everybody gives about how enthusiastic they are straight after that workshop and how they would like, okay, game busters, I know what to do. I'm now aligned and things like that.
I think for any Westerners out there, that the best thing I can give you as a comparison is he's kind of like the Tony Robbins of the Philippines. And maybe there's maybe there's multiple Tony Robbins-esque characters in the Philippines. But for me, in terms of the clarity of his message and the energy he brings to it, there's something about him that really cuts through. He's highly intelligent, processes information really quickly. But I think what really stands out for me is the experience of being in one of his workshops. The only thing I can compare it to is when I went to a Tony Robbins workshop in 2018. It's the energy and the almost fever pitch that he creates amongst people. There's something almost primal, almost tribal about being in a workshop of his. I remember putting some videos on Instagram when I attended the workshop in December 2025, 5 Elk. When you look back on those videos, you're like, this is wild. Like, I can't believe I was in the middle of this. I can't believe at 9 a.m., actually 8 a.m. in the morning, he got 20 of our most senior leaders dancing and singing like no one was watching. And he has a unique ability to get people to tap into something deeper. And obviously, it's not all fun and games. He has a strong purpose behind what he's doing, but he doesn't run training sessions. He creates powerful face-to-face experiences. And I think it's a really interesting way for people to learn because there's a level of vulnerability and groundedness and focus that you see in that room that very few trainers I've seen are able to create. So he does something pretty special, which is hard to describe. But I suppose from your point of view, you've been through a bit of his training now, and I'd say most of our listeners haven't been lucky enough to be trained by Adrian. So how would you describe the value you've got from that training, particularly the most recent training that we organized?
Adrian Ding just delivers, not just the meaty information that every single leader would hear, but there's a way how he speaks to the heart of, like, as an individual. It's as if the conversations and details that he discusses is kind of like an inner voice in my mind that somehow is just magnified. I don't know. That's how I would describe it. It's just like, okay, yes, we have a topic. Yes, we are targeting this. And yes, we have an objective to somehow work on becoming this. But really, there's that something from within that speaks louder than ever. And kind of like he creates that trigger. And in a way that you won't forget it because you also have that spice of fun in the workshop. As you've seen, Becky, Filipinos are very much into celebrations. We love to have a laugh, like even at work sometimes. Like we want to have fun while working. We want to chat and have fun while we're talking. And that's what I look forward to every single time that, Danielle would open up, like, why not we do this? It gets me excited. And I'm like, okay, when?
The workshop was powerful. Like there was a lot of tears. There was an incredible amount of vulnerability. We brought him in to help some of our leaders, particularly those who are transitioning to new roles in 2026, to better own their value, to understand what was uniquely theirs and what they could bring to the table when it came to client relationships. But most importantly, to grab hold of that and share it with the world and say, this is mine and I'm here to give you this gift generously. I think it was really mission accomplished. That the feeling in the room, like I couldn't believe in 2 days how he made everyone feel so connected, but also you could just see people's body language and their posture changing and just their energy that they had there, that kind of calm confidence that everyone had at the end of it. It was something really special. And yeah, I think that's why when we had him booked in, you were so quick to say, hey, do you think we could grab him afterwards to do an episode of the podcast, which I was so happy that we had that opportunity to capture lightning in a bottle and to be able to bring a couple of episodes to you straight after these workshops. He was originally going to do it literally straight after, like finish the workshop at 4 p.m. and then start recording, but we went a bit overtime. And I just want to say thanks to Adrian because he very kindly offered to come in the following morning. It was his day off, but he said, no, I promised I'd do this and I want to do a really good job. And so he came back in fresh, renewed energy. And we pretty much just picked up the conversation where we left. But I got to spend the best part of an hour with him. And you'll hear that over the next couple of episodes. But it was so insightful, so many great ideas. The fact that he cared so much about the podcast he committed to come in on his day off. And yeah, I can just tell you from working with him, he'll say to you something like, I'll get this to you by Monday. And he always gets it to you by Monday. There's something that I value in all of my favorite leaders, that they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. And Adrian has demonstrated so many times that all the things that you're going to hear in this episode aren't just cool slogans or empty promises or buzzwords or phrases. They're actually how he lives his life and how he leads through his workshops, through his business, through his client relationships. So this guy's the real deal. He has so much authenticity. He absolutely follows everything that he is going to suggest to you. And we had to break this into 2 parts. Firstly, because it was an hour and we thought, you know what, probably 30 minutes-ish is a good amount of time for a podcast. But I was sharing with you before we hit record, Maria, that I was listening to this episode and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I've heard a lot of ideas here. Like my brain is in overdrive. And then I looked down at my phone and I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes in. So I was like, oh my gosh, like the amount of value per minute, I've never experienced anything like it on our podcast. So I think for your own sanity, let's keep this to 30 minutes because I think your head's going to explode if we go beyond that. So we've broken it into 2 parts. And loosely speaking, I think what you can expect from part 1 is Adrian really sharing, I suppose, his vision of what a wonderful leader is, and particularly how that's changing and how the leader of the future potentially needs to be something that the leader of the past hasn't needed to be. So the meaning and the importance of leadership is changing over time and what that means for us as leaders. We also have a very interesting conversation where we talk about how suited, a spoiler alert, The answer is incredibly well suited. Filipinos are for what the future of leadership looks like, and how so many of those skills that all leaders need to develop are skills that live amongst Filipinos in spades. So I think that's going to be very interesting for any of our Filipino leaders to hear how they are uniquely placed to be in a really strong position to be the types of leaders that the world will need very, very soon and is already starting to need. So that's kind of part one, is really that idea of what does Adrian Ding's version of wonderful leadership look like. And then part two is really around the practicalities of, so what should you do? How should you act? What are the behaviors that you should embody? And what are the things that you can practically do day to day to become more of that type of leader? So broadly speaking, it's like part one to me is the vision of great leadership, and part two is the how do you get there? So I think they really complement each other nicely. But in part one, we're going to give you a crash course in where Adrian Ding believes leaders need to be aspiring to be, and how the ball is bouncing and where it's going to bounce next. Before we jump into it, I forgot to mention something very sad, Maria, which is that this was the first episode we recorded without my wonderful co-host next to me. It kind of felt gross. Like I was having such a great chat with Adrian, but then there was this little part of me going, this just feels like I'm like betraying you. Like it just felt so wrong to not have you there, because it was the first time I'd had to record a podcast without you. So do you forgive me?
All good. It was good to be an audience as well this time, like pure audience mode. And that was great. You handled it really great. I'm really proud of you, Becky. I just want to say that.
It was funny though, because I did have like some nerves around the logistics and stuff. I was like, oh gosh, like, if I can't think of my next question, or you often do the outro to our podcast. So I was like, all these things I had to start thinking about that I hadn't. But it made me appreciate you and how much easier you make the experience of podcasting. And yeah, you were definitely missed by both me and Adrian in the episode, I promise you.
Thank you. Maybe someday we can do it all together, with a guest and you and I.
Or maybe next time you do a revenge podcast where you're like, well, screw you. If you're going to ditch me for this episode, I'm going to do one without you. Even the score. I think we've talked for long enough, so without further ado, why don't we kickstart our chat with none other than the one, the only, Mr. Adrian Ding. Mr. Adrian Ding, CEO of Maximum Impact Philippines Corporate Training and Development. Welcome to the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Pleasure to be here. Been waiting for this moment.
Yes, us too. And this is kind of a mixed bag today. I'm super excited to speak to you firstly.
Okay.
It's also the first time we've done the podcast face-to-face.
Wow.
So that is special. But the downside is that this is the first time we've done the podcast without Maria, who is the co-host of the podcast. So if you're listening out there, Maria, we wish you were here. We miss you. And for our listeners who are Maria fanboys or fangirls, this is not permanent. Maria will be back in the next episode. This is just a special one-off where I will have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Adrian Ding and tapping into his incredible experiences with some of the top 500 companies in the Philippines. And you've also just taken some of our leaders through a 2-day training process to understand the value that they are able to give, but most importantly, to find that handbrake and to unleash it on the world around them.
Sure.
I learned so much in those 2 days. I feel like we could do 20 podcast episodes together based on everything.
Every time you're here.
I will take you up on that if that's an offer. But yeah, I've distilled down a few of the questions that I would love to ask you. And if you're ready to go, I say we get stuck in.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Adrian, welcome to the Asenso Tayo Leadership Podcast.
Thank you.
So let's start with a simple one.
Yeah.
What does leadership mean to Adrian Ding?
Wow. It can get very complicated, and it can get also very simple. I used to think that leadership was about position, titles, ranks. But over the last 5 years, I've come to realize that leadership is not about who's in charge, but it's about taking care of the people within your charge. It's about influencing people by carrying a vision and a mission around you and rallying people towards that direction. And it's never going to be easy, right? Because you're going to have to be very relational instead of transactional. But leadership for me is picking yourself up first, right? Leading without a title, leading yourself first before you lead others, modeling certain behaviors that are not just inspiring, but certain behaviors that drive positive behaviors and change in the other person, and becoming a very positive influence to others around you, right? And that requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of chiseling and refining and polishing, because you're constantly working on yourself, but you're also second guessing yourself. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I feel that leadership is about leading yourself first. It's just getting out of bed every single day, right? Not sleeping again for another 5 minutes in the mattress, but it's mind over mattress. It's just pursuing something that you believe in by leading yourself and rallying people along with you.
So why, I think instinctively everyone will go, yeah, okay, I need to lead myself before I lead others. But why is that so important?
I think it's so important because you really have to be a model to other people. Leadership is 65% visual, right? And so, our words can actually move people, but it's our actions that really drive behaviors of other people around us, right? And so people are looking for models. People are looking for others that they can be inspired with, right? And why is it that in Filipino culture, we love these K-dramas, we love following people? Because we want to be inspired. And what truly inspires them is the aspiration that they have of a brighter future, of a better tomorrow, right? Of a stronger community, right? And so I feel that that's one thing that's so important among leaders, is that we got to do the job within ourselves first before we do others. Otherwise, why can't the blind can't lead the blind, right? And you can't give what you don't have, and you cannot teach what you do not know.
And I think authentically, people can tell if you're asking them to do something that you haven't done yourself, or that you're not capable of doing, and that really weakens that request. So yeah, I'd never thought of the idea of self-leadership as becoming the example, so other people go, well, I can see that you're doing this, and now I know what that looks like, so I can copy as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we Filipinos, we're like copycats. We want to be inspired by someone and then see what we can pick from that person and weave it into the fabric of our own lives. Yeah, and see how that can be a part of our own persona, right? Because the truth is, every single person I know would like to become a better version of themselves, but they also want to see someone ahead of them, slightly ahead of them, so that they can follow along the trail. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this, because you work across dozens, possibly hundreds of businesses. I think you're one of these people who sees the patterns, and you've probably triangulated your own view of what's actually happening out there. I think sometimes we overstate how much change is happening in the world, because I think change is always happening.
Sure.
Potentially it's escalating, happening at a more rapid pace, but change is the constant, right?
Right.
And then with change comes opportunity. And so I suppose for leaders out there, and when I say leaders, future leaders, people wanting to be leaders, or people established as leaders, I'd be interested in your paradigm. Do you think what has always worked in leadership will continue to work in the future, and people just need to, I suppose, lean on those principles of leadership? Or do you think there's a different type of leadership that the future is going to call for, that people need to be ready for?
Sure. That's a really good question, Michael. Actually, this is the first time in history that we're seeing 4 generations work together under the same umbrella, right? And that in itself is already tough. So to lead from a very, very dominant perspective, right? From a dictatorial perspective, it's not going to cut it. The younger generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, they're looking for mentors. They carry with them some information. They have the insight at the palm of their hand, right? But they also want to be led by leaders who are servant leaders. They want to be led by people who are willing to mentor them, right? And understand also their generation. And at the same time, it's important also for the older generation to find out, what do the younger ones bring to the table, right? Because they're the ones who actually drive innovation too. So for me, dominance is not the answer. If you're going to be a dominant leader, what happens is that it stifles creativity. It also affects collaboration. And when that happens, there's no way that you can actually drive innovation in the organization, right? I know that those words, they all rhyme, but it does make sense. And I just feel that it's very important for leaders right now to come from a place of empathy, a place of understanding and servanthood, And when they see that being modeled consistently, not just with intensity, but with consistency in the organization, the succeeding generation will follow suit. Now, why is it so important for us to believe in the area, in the mindset or the paradigm of empathy? We have to understand that we have these biases with every single generation. And when we have those biases, what happens is it creates these barriers or these blocks that silos all of us from collaborating with each other. So instead of creating that barrier, I think we need to come from a place of empathy and understanding so that we can reach to the other generation and find out how can we really work with each other instead of against each other because of tenure, hierarchy, or number of years in the company, or ego for that matter, right? So I feel that in the next 10 years, leadership has to be more empathetic, has to be more servant-led. It has to be more people-focused. When we work with people very well, magic happens. There's innovation, there's collaboration, discoveries are being made, and then you now have the inception of artificial intelligence and robotics and all that other stuff, all that jazz, right? And so they are willing to provide you with the knowledge, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to tap into the multiple intelligences of people.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, Michael, we need to have servant leadership. We have to be empathetic and understanding towards others.
So when I hear the phrase servant leadership, I have mixed feelings. I have a very positive feeling because the idea of service, I think, is a beautiful gift that we can all give to others.
Sure.
But then there's something jarring about it because I think to myself, oh, well, how can you be a leader if you're being subservient and if you're, I suppose people aren't looking up to you. So maybe just explain to me what you mean by servant leadership.
I'll just tell you a quick story about this. So a couple of years ago, I was doing a senior leadership training in Bohol, in Panglao. And they were going through a very difficult time as a leadership team. They're into manufacturing. And I happened to sit in the lobby with employee number 9. So I asked him, how many years have you been with the company? And he said, I've had 7 years with the company. I said, that's wonderful. I go like, what's the number one reason why you're still here? And he just uses his lips to point out. He goes like, I thought he was going to kiss me, right? But he was actually pointing out to his leader, who was the managing director of the company. And I go like, why? And he tells me this really long story, Michael, which I can compress for you. He goes like, a few years back, I received a phone call from my wife. It's the kind of phone call that you do not want to get. And she was on the other side of the line and she was saying that our daughter is very ill. Took her to the doctor and she has dengue and she's critical. So this employee number 9 speaks to his boss and just says, can I be excused for the entire afternoon because I really need to rush to the hospital? Without batting an eyelash, managing director says, go, let me take care of whatever it is that you have to handle it. Don't worry about it. Don't give us a call. Attend to your family matters. So he goes to the hospital and he does everything that he can, right? And the managing director does not hear from him for several hours. But at the strike of midnight, he gets a call from employee number 9. And employee number 9 says, Joe, I did everything I could, but she died in my arms tonight. Immediately, he puts on his clothes, rushes to the hospital, right? And finds employee number 9 squatting on the floor through tears. And he just puts his arms around him, consoles him, and says, how I wish I could have done more for you. And employee number 9 says, you did by letting me go. Ever since that day, employee number 9's allegiance has always been for his leader because he went above corporate affairs and he literally intentionally went into the life of a person, served that person at the height of their pain. The following day, managing director organizes the senior leadership team and and says, what can we do to help him? Because of his example, everybody in that room decided to pitch in, and they said, I want to give a portion of my salary to help him out. And the money that they were able to raise, Michael, was just enough to cover hospitalization and the wake funeral services for this gentleman. That person decided to stay with the company out of loyalty because he saw servant leadership. And it's not just in those unique, rare moments, but it's the intentionality where the leader literally checks in on their people frequently, not just to know how they're doing in terms of their targets, their quotas, their slides, or their metrics, but in their own personal lives. And being the kind of person who demonstrates what it means to be a shepherd, how to guide people in the right direction, but at the same time, how to discipline people also when they go off course. This is what's rare today, because most leaders today are so fixated around sales targets, numbers, goals, crunching the numbers, etc., but they're forgetting about people. And the number one thing that people need is a big kuya or a big ate. Somebody out there who can help them lead the way.
Yeah.
That's what they need right now. Not another manager who will boss them around
Yeah.
and tell them how to do, but a leader who will show them how it's done. That's what I think servant leadership is.
What the picture you're painting for me is almost less of like, I go to work, I do a job, I go home, but more of like, I'm part of a collective, I'm part of a tribe, which is something at 5 Elk we're very passionate about. But it sounds to me like it's almost work is fulfilling a different role in your life than perhaps it was in the past, where it was just about do something, get money, go home. Is that something that is changing in your view because Gen Zs are demanding that? Or is there some other trend that is creating this different dynamic in the workplace?
Yeah, I think Gen Z love the idea of flexibility. They see the idea that, you can actually do work at home in the comfort of any location and get well paid for that. But if there's one thing that Gen Z will miss in the entire equation, it's that sense of relationship. It's that being surrounded in a tribe, in a working environment of people who can look after you and watch your back. This is one key component. And so if you're going to go to ChatGPT and build a relationship with ChatGPT, they're going to give you the answers to some of your questions, but it's not going to give you the intimate connection that you're going to need. That's where the human connection comes in. And that's the reason why I feel it's important for Gen Z to be integrated in the workspace where there is a thriving working environment for them to grow also, not just to upskill, but to also accelerate their social quotient, their social skills, right? So to your question, I think it's important for Gen Z and even millennials to understand that although flexibility is important, I think human interaction is increasingly important today.
Yeah.
Right. Not just for your mental health, but also to accelerate your career.
Yeah. There's a phrase that you shared in your training with us that I don't know, my mind keeps going back to it. I find it really intriguing.
Really?
Yeah. And it's the idea of a leader being strong-minded and soft-hearted at the same time.
Yeah.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. Kind of like sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Right.
Yeah.
But think of it like Mentos, for example, or M&Ms. It's really crunchy, but it's soft on the inside. I think when we say strong-minded, we're talking about your convictions, your moral backbone.
Yeah.
Things that you stand for, that you believe in, the non-negotiables in terms of your values, and also whatever it is that is being given to you by your superiors, the ability for you to execute with excellence and to lead yourself in the process, right? And not having to cut corners and step on people to get ahead of what you want, right? That's strong-minded. Soft-hearted, on the other hand, the flip side of the coin is when you have a genuine heart set and understanding for others. You understand where people are coming from. Some people are fast, some people are slow, but you know where to position yourself. Some people are very, very dominant. Some people are subservient, and you know how to be in between those situations. Basically, you understand people. There's a deep sense of connection. And I feel that those two have to come together. They really have to be fused. They have to merge, because that adds to your arsenal of your skills. Being able to stand for what you believe in, but at the same time being understanding enough that there can be negotiation, there can be compromise, there can be some hand-holding and conflict resolution along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some leaders have a tendency to tip to the other side. Strong-minded, this is the way it's done.
Yeah.
No negotiation whatsoever. It kills innovation. And other leaders are too soft.
Yeah,
So what happens is we end up being abused. Grace is taken advantage of, right? There has to be a merging of those two.
Is there a simple way that you know to find that balance, or is it really a case of, I don't know, trial and error, or you're always going to kind of deviate between the two, but finding that balance, I suppose, is the challenge of a leader or a high performer.
Yeah, I think we're all looking for balance, right? But I think it's a process. That's why it's not practice makes perfect. It's good practice makes progress.
Yeah.
Right? And as leaders, that's one of the reasons why we're called leaders, is because we have to take the hits first.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a lot of trial and error. We're going to make a lot of mistakes in the process. And hopefully the epiphany or the learning takeaways from those experiences will be what will teach whoever it is that's following us, right? There is a price to pay as leaders. We're going to make a ton of mistakes, Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's important there is as we make those mistakes, we find a balance too. Am I being too empathetic?
Yeah.
Am I being too by the book here?
Yeah.
Right? We've got to find that balance. And sometimes it's nice to bounce it off with people like peers that you trust. Same wavelength, same maturity level, if not even higher.
Yeah.
To ask them these questions so that they can be accountable to you.
Yeah. And I suppose it's one of those things where you're getting that feedback from the people. So if you've seen the standard slip, it means you probably need to be more of the strong-minded. Whereas if you are seeing people saying yes, but you're not feeling the conviction that they agree with you or they're bought in or that they're connected, maybe you need to be more soft-hearted.
Right. And at the same time, it's important for leaders to have a moral compass. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and say, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
And when there is doubt, that's when you consult people that you trust.
Yeah.
So that they can give you feedback to validate if what you're feeling is right or wrong.
Yeah.
In that moment. And I feel that that's the missing link that some leaders do not have.
Yeah.
They trust themselves too much to the point that they feel that they're not going to make any mistakes, but they will.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So they've got to be able to have a few people around them, bounce things off, and help them secure their moral compass if this is the right way or the wrong way.
Yeah. For my next question, I really want you to think of this from the point of view of leaders. So, the people we've been working with over the last 2 days, people who have a group of people within their charge, but also people who are in potentially not a management position or not looking after people, but either want to become a leader in the future or have a leadership mindset and treat their role from a lens of leadership.
Sure.
What are the list of skills that you think are critical for them to build? And what I'm almost looking for here is a little bit of a checklist where they can go, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at these three, but all those one or two I need to focus on. So what are those skills that you think are going to be essential in the future?
Right. So we've done research for the last 16 years, talking to CEOs, people of your level, executives, and we asked them, what are 3 things that you're looking for a candidate to be promoted? And I am surprised that one of the biggest things that they're looking for really is the ability to lead people. Leadership is just so important. Why? Because in a room of 30, you can tell who's leading them. Right? So that's one. The other one also that I notice is that they need to have what we call, they need to have empathy, understanding of others, emotional intelligence. But there's a third one, and this one was very, very high. It is called AQ, or adversity quotient, otherwise known as grit, G-R-I-T. And the reason behind that is because organizations will go through different phases, right? That's why there's something called agility. And leaders are oftentimes tested at the height of adversity, not in that space where there is comfort. So when they see that there is a person who's capable to firefight, to troubleshoot, to resolve issues, right? And maintain that strong-minded and soft-hearted mentality as well, that person is promotable, and that's rare. Because many times people, when they see chaos, they jump ship. or they become agnostic to the situation. They don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
They just want to take care of their own lives, but there's no ownership whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of finger pointing and fault blaming. But that quality of being self-led, the quality of being understanding and empathetic, but at the same time having the adversity quotient, the grit, the tenacity, the persistence, and the passion for long-term goals. What happens there is that you see a candidate who's tried and tested through the fire,
Yeah.
and they become gold in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you have read out that list, the leadership, the people leadership skills, the empathy, the heart focus skills, the AQ, the adversity quotient.
Yeah.
I hear that list and I just go, that is Filipinos. That my experience of working with Filipinos is they have those things in spades.
Yeah.
And it's something I don't know, I feel like you've just put words to something I've felt for a long time, which is that the future does demand a caring leader, an empathetic leader, a heart-driven leader.
Yes.
Not necessarily all heart, but I think heart needs to be a significant part of the equation for leadership in the future. And I just look around me and, for any Westerners who are listening to the podcast, they may not have experienced it if they haven't been to the Philippines, but for those Westerners who have been to the Philippines, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's this feeling that you get of being like wrapped in this beautiful warm blanket of humanity where people drop their guard, they're vulnerable, they're open-hearted, and it's infectious. But you feel so supported and cared for, which, is one of the most beautiful gifts of leadership from my point of view. So what I'd like to ask is, I think there are probably, and I've experienced this directly, a lot of Filipinos who go, if I want to be a better leader, I need to be more like a Westerner. And I'm just going to observe Westerners, watch Westerners, copy Westerners. I'm sitting here as a Westerner going, oh, no. I've got a lot to learn from the Filipinos. And I think there are skills, not even skills, just inherent cultural abilities inside virtues. That's a great word. Love it. That the Filipino people have that make them perfectly placed to lead in the future.
For sure.
As a Filipino man, what's your view on that?
We're always the victim of typhoons. We've had earthquakes. This year alone, Cebu was severely attacked. Over the last 5 years, aside from the pandemic, we went through a lot as a country.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but because of colonialism for hundreds of years, somehow it has brought out an adversity quotient among us Filipinos, right? To be resilient.
Yeah.
That's why we're called the Pearl of the Orient, right? Unfortunately, bad leaders produce also a certain degree of laxity. Like, for example, when Ondoy was a huge storm that badly hit us, or Yolanda hit us, the leaders of this country didn't really do much. They went there to present themselves in public, to distribute goods and stuff, but the intention was to be seen and not to serve. When that happens, it erodes trust. When trust is eroded, what happens is either people will also do exactly what they did, or they will just be lax. And so there's a tendency for us Filipinos to be content. When you go to other countries like Singapore, Australia, for example, even Thailand, Vietnam, you see that there's a certain degree of progress that's happening. By the time they come back to this country, every single Filipino I know will say in their minds, back to reality, right? It's because they're able to compare, and they notice that the reason why those countries are doing very well is because it's not perfect. I'm sure there are leaders who are still bad, but they can see that the fruit of their leadership has led to progress in their nation.
Yeah.
And it's not happening here.
Okay.
Right? Now, on the other side of the coin, we Filipinos are not just hospitable people. We're very energetic and enthusiastic. We deeply have joy for what we do, especially if we're cared for by the leaders who are watching over us. We always go the extra mile. We're very flexible, I think the reason why the outsourcing industry is very strong in the Philippines is because We Filipinos can communicate very well.
Yeah.
Whereas the Indians are highly technical.
Yeah.
Filipinos are very high on emotional intelligence. We're very caring. Filipinos are easy to talk to. You know, you can carry a conversation. Like you could talk to any person out there in the street, and they can guide you to your destination. Unlike in other countries, no English, right? I feel those are qualities that if you stitch that into the fabric of a leader will make that leader complete. We Filipinos do not have to have this Westerners mentality to be like them so that we can be equal to. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
I think we have the virtues. What we need is the exposure.
Yeah.
What we need, Michael, is a chance.
Yeah.
If you bring a Filipino and take them to your country and let them stay with you for 6 months, I promise you, they will outwork and outlast other people. Why? Because you created a higher standard of environment for them where they can bring in their gifts and their virtues, and you created that environment for them. They will definitely excel. So even if we have these virtues, Michael, what I'm trying to say is, even if we have these virtues, even if we have these qualities, but if the leader himself or herself erodes trust, it leads to laxity. It also makes these people feel that because of that sense of betrayal, why do I have to excel? But innately, they are already ingrained with those virtues. They just need to have the environment to be able to go all out with those virtues. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. It reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, you become the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I often say, if you don't have 5 people around you who are inspiring you or holding you to a higher standard, find them in books, find them in podcasts, find them on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
When I'm in 5L.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say is, if you, I do think in an environment like 5Elk, I would like to think that the team are fortunate to have those types of people around them.
For sure.
But some people out there,
You being one of them.
oh,
Trust me.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And yeah, I try to hold myself to a high standard to have a positive influence on people. But for people who don't have those people in their world and around them, what are some of the ways that you think you can see the world through a bigger lens, hold yourself to a higher standard, be inspired by something more than what's around you at the moment?
Yeah. There are many ways to do that. Obviously, we're very caught up with our algorithms. Whatever it is that we watch, garbage in equals garbage out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, we do want to have mentors, but to have access to mentors is not easy. Some people have the privilege that they're just in the corner of your office, right? I think it starts with desire, a desire for change, a certain kind of discontent for your situation, that you realize that this is not where I am called to be. This is not my absolute best. If you look at the life of entrepreneurs, Michael, they literally had no one. They had no books. They just had a desire. They just had a fire in their belly.
Yeah.
And over the years, as they continued to work along the journey, they met people who contributed to that journey in their lives. So I think it's creating that desire inside of you first, right? That enough is enough. This is not the life that I want. I want something better.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to achieve whatever that better looks like, right? So that's it. And then, of course, you can reinforce that with books, with podcasts, with authors, with mentors, with people like you.
Yeah.
I like to call them disciplers too, you know? So along the journey, some people will get on the same bus with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have the right to choose also as to who that person will be, to speak their voice into your life.
Yeah. I think that's it, is like, part of it is choosing the right people. Part of it is pruning the people around you. And if there are those negative influences who are taking up your 5 people, hypothetically, letting go of some of those relationships that they're serving.
And let's be honest, Michael, I mean, we're very family oriented, but the truth is, in Filipino culture, sometimes the people closest to you have the potential to hurt you the most.
Yeah.
And in many Filipino families, they're coming from toxic family environments. But when they come to work, it's a totally different environment.
Yeah.
They see their second family.
Yeah.
They see their friends and their colleagues greeting them.
Yeah.
Right? But when they go home, it's like a battlefield again.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I feel that it's important for us to create this space in work that is second family.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is Starbucks for? They want to be the third option, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's home, work and then it's the coffee shop. Why not make the same also for our working environments?
Absolutely. And you know, this, I promise this isn't a 5L sales pitch. But, you know, there are some people who are mothers, fathers, need to be at home to work. And I think it's great that we live in an era where you can work from home.
Sure.
But I think for some of those younger Gen Zs who are coming out of university, I think you're painting a really strong argument for not deferring to work from home, but actually realizing that there's probably a lot of more growth and upside in an office environment where you're surrounded by inspiring people who will help propel your career.
Agree. You can make more, make no mistake, but the lack of accountability desensitizes your personal growth too. Imagine nobody's watching me. I'm just accountable to a client because I'm doing freelance work. But who's going to give me the constructive feedback that I need, not something sugar-coated?
Yeah.
When I'm down, when I'm discouraged, who's going to be the guy and the girl who will watch over my back to lift me up when I'm down?
Yeah.
That's the reason why I feel that the face-to-face word format is still very helpful and relevant.
Yes.
Even in decades to come.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Asenso Tayo Leaders. If something landed with you today, don't just keep it in your head. Make sure you try it. Kaya mo yan. Asenso Tayo Leaders is brought to you by 5Elk, a team who helps great businesses build great offshore teams. If you're curious about what we do or what it's like to work with us, you'll find everything you need at 5elk.com. And if you're leading people but want to find ways to do it better, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your podcast platform of choice, so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. Remember, you're not meant to have it all worked out. Just keep taking the next step. Asenso tayo!